Hey, hey, hey! I have returned once again, and I have a small story and one of the main stories here in the book. Okay, first, like I've been saying at the beginning of each video, I want to add my own personal experiences with the compilation, into a compilation of different stories that I read from the book, or I may get from the internet or from a viewer about people who have mysteriously vanished. The last one I did was about my was about a UFO experience that I had. So, with that being said, the next one would be about a ghostly experience. I mean, I've had so many of them over the coming years. There's so many that I could talk about. So I'm gonna jump ahead and talk. Well, actually, I want to go back really to when all of this first happened and how it happened. I was like 15 years old, living in Cranford, New Jersey. Um, I was still, like I said, I was into those things, in the past, like UFOs, ghosts, and stuff like that. I was always into the unknown. It was very intriguing to me, even though at times it did kind of freak me out, but I couldn't help but want to learn more. Um, it was one day I was looking at Psychic Friends Network. Dionne Warwick was the spokesperson uh, for that network, and they had these psychics up there who had these little colored rocks that they used for meditation and being able to see into the spirit world and all that stuff. I thought it was pretty cool because I thought it had some type of meaning to it, and each rock represented a means of personal gain. Okay, like love, money, fame, you name it. It's each rock represented that type of lifestyle. So I was intrigued, and being a young man, of course you're gonna be looking for love, right? Looking for the perfect girlfriend or whatever the case may be. And I had big aspirations back in those days, wanting to be a superstar. I had this big aspiration of being an astronaut, and then I started thinking about being an actor or a doctor after watching Doogie Howser and all those other doctor shows and everything. It all intrigued me. So um, my mom ordered them for me, and I got it in the mail. It was a little pouch, with a little rope tie on it, and I poured it all out, and it had all these real cool colored rocks, in the bag, and it had all different colors in it. It was all mixed up, where the colors were mixed together, and it wasn't until years later, or at least when I got to school, I realized that these same rocks you can make in science class. It's like a little chamber that they put this little gray powder in this little chamber, and I think it's like a grinder, or so, well, not a grinder, but it tumbles the rocks. And you tumble the rocks like that for like maybe a week or so, every day, and over time the erosion turns them into these real smooth, colorful rocks. And I had them for a very long time, and then they kind of got lost over the years. But to get on the story, once I looked at it gave you instruction on what each rock was meant for. So they had one rock for love, one rock for like fame. They had a rock for one of those little rocks for like money. So what I was doing, I put both of them, like a handful of these rocks, in both hands, and I was meditating to it, and I was saying over and over in my head what I wanted out of these rocks and all this stuff. That was a big mistake because it opened a doorway to the spirit world, and what came through over the course of the next couple of days, I wasn't prepared for. Okay, so when I went to sleep, the first time something like that happened, something happened to me, was when I was asleep. I had a bunk bed at the time, and The bunk bed was up against the wall, and I had a Janet Jackson poster, like right here. Okay, and that's why I'm a huge Janet Jackson fan. I'm the #1 diehard fan. But anyway, that's another story. So it was in the morning time, and you know when you at that point of awake and sleep, and you like somewhere in the middle, all of a sudden I hear a voice call out my name in a whisper. It was like Mac, and it woke me out of a sound sleep. No, I mean obviously I wasn't in a sound sleep if I heard that voice, but it jarred me, and I woke up. And I was like, what the? And I realized that I'm on the top bunk, and the wall is like right here, so there was no way for anyone to even be there to call out my name like that in my ear, but they did. I jumped out of my bed and I ran to my mom. She said, "Mom, I heard somebody call my name, and then there's nobody there." And she was like, "That's nice, boy. Go back to sleep." And I'm like, so you know how parents are. So over the next course, over the next couple of days, I started having other experiences, and it got even creepier after that. The second night or the second morning, I heard someone say, "Give me some." Like, what the fuck? And I was in between awake and sleep. And here's the crazy part. When I woke up from all of this, I actually could still hear it calling out my name. It's like the voice was dissipating in the distance, but as soon as my eyes popped open, I caught the last part of those words where it said, "Give me some," but I could still hear it, and I'm awake. So I wasn't dreaming. And I could hear it as if it was saying that and moving away at the same time. Like it was dissipating off in the distance. It's like someone calling your name while they're moving backwards and still moving that way away from you. And the second night, the third time after that, it was the same voice. It was a man's voice, very prominent, very strong sounding voice, and the same voice said, wait, it didn't say anything. It actually was cackling. It was like an evil laugh. But as I wake up, I can still hear it laughing as the voice is dissipating. Like it was like moving away from me. Okay, so fourth time, and it would always happen around the same exact time. In the morning time, and I'm in the middle of waking up and being fully awake. All of a sudden, I hear this blood curdling female scream, like a woman had just fell from the top of her roof, or she was being tortured, or it was like one of those like famous female movie screams, but it sounded more real than anything. It didn't sound like a movie scream. It just sounded like somebody was in complete distress. I leap out of my bed. I run to the window on the other side of my room, and it was a sunny day outside. It was nobody out there. I didn't see nobody in distress, like somebody might have been fighting, or some guy that she was dating was trying to kill her, or whatever the case may be. That's the kind of scream I heard. It was like when a woman pulls the voice from her diaphragm. She inhales and it just lets out this loud, blood curdling scream. That's what it sounded like. And so after that, next day, same thing, but this time it wasn't a scream. It was a very loud explosion. Okay, and so once again, I leap out of the bed from the top bunk, and I run to the window. I didn't see anything on the side. It's sunny outside. It was quiet. Nobody was around. So I walk up front to the living room where they had it was like a big window where I can see everything from where I was. And there was nothing out there. Like I said, I didn't see no fire. I didn't see any smoke. I didn't see a car crash. Nothing. There was nothing out there. Everybody else was still asleep. And I lived in a cul-de-sac, so you can only get but so far, right? So I didn't live on the end. I lived somewhere towards the front. So I was just like, wow, this is crazy. I could not believe this was actually happening, but I'm actually hearing these things, So, and after that, this stuff was happening on a daily basis. So after that experience, hearing the explosion, the very next day, Same thing, same time. In the morning time, I'm in the middle of waking up, and being sleepy, just in the middle of waking up and actually being fully awake. Something completely different happened at that point. I was, it was weird. It felt like I was being sucked out of my body like a vacuum. And all of a sudden, I happened to look down, and I literally see me lying on the top of my bed, with my head to the side, and my tongue hanging out my mouth like this, And I was like, what the heck? And so I turn around and I look, and there's this dark tunnel right in front of me, and I could see like these little streaky clouds moving in a circle, but they're like layered. It's like rings, like cloudy rings that led all the way down this tunnel, going off. And it's not It's not like connected like in a swirl, like a slinky type deal, but it was just like separate rings that led down the tunnel, going from one end to the other. It's kind of like being in a dark room and they have like a laser light that looks kind of like it's shooting lasers in like 3 or 4 different directions, and you see the mist that's swirling around it. It kind of looked like that, if you could remember how that looked if you saw it in a movie. But that's how it looked. But it was like, just like I said, those rings. And I looked back and I couldn't see me anymore. So I was fully in that tunnel. And as I'm moving in this tunnel, all of a sudden I see this figure moving out of the other end of this, moving towards me from the other end of this tunnel. And it looked like an angelic figure with a flowing white dress. But as it got closer and closer and closer, I started to realize that this was no angelic figure. This was like a full-blown skeleton in a torn white dress. It's like something out of a movie, and I could see the skull with the teeth and everything, the sockets with no eyeballs in it, but I could see white, old-looking lady hair. It was weird, and it freaked me out so much that I just somehow mentally I got out of that tunnel and I slammed back into my body. And when I woke up, I was like, my whole body was it wasn't racked with pain, but it felt like I could feel the pressure of me slamming back into my body. Now, a couple months after that, I was watching the Sally Jesse Raphael show, and they had a young girl on there that was talking about, just so you know, this is like back in the early to mid 80s, maybe early 90s, I'm not sure, but I think it was probably like early to mid 80s, maybe late 80s. And she was talking about out-of-body experiences, and I was like, okay, it sounds exactly like what happened to me. I had an out-of-body experience, but it was what do you call that? It was a near-death experience, and that's when you had that little tunnel experience where you actually in a tunnel. So I had a near-death experience, and because the out-of-body experience, that's more like you traveling to different places, in your spirit form. They call that astral projection, but that's not what I went through. I went through a near-death experience. And she was describing how it feels, when something like that happens. Like, you feel like, she even said, you feel like you're being sucked out of your body like a vacuum, and then all of a sudden, bam, you're looking at yourself from above, and then when you go back into your body, you're slamming back into it, like you falling from the sky and you just hit the ground. That's how it feels. It's, aside from the pain of hitting the ground, of course, or minus hitting the ground and feeling that kind of pain. So I was like, wow, that's exactly what happened to me. I experienced all of that, the slamming of the body slamming of myself back into my body, and being sucked out of my body like a vacuum. I felt that, and it did feel like I was being sucked out of my body, So I was like, this is weird. It was crazy, I can't believe that I actually heard this young girl talk about that, and I experienced exactly what she was describing. So that was a pretty crazy moment for me at that point. And that's when a lot of this stuff really started to elevate, even though it was happening to me ever since I was a kid. And I'll get to those points later on in every video that I post. of the my experiences as a young boy living in New York. And I got some crazy ones too. But yeah, that was pretty much when it really started to get a little crazy at that point, when I had that out of body experience. And then another experience happened a couple of days after that, or maybe a couple of years down the road, where I was walking in the living room, and it was the weirdest thing. It felt like I was there, but I wasn't there. It's like I kind of crossed into another dimension. But yet I could still feel myself and see myself here in this plane in this time, and it was like I could see cloud, like a mist or clouds all around me. I just kept feeling around for it like it was there, but it wasn't there. So it was like I was crossed between two worlds almost. Like I'm seeing that world and my world like combined into one vision, and it was just the weirdest thing. It's like being caught between two worlds. It's kind of hard to explain, but I could see the mist or the clouds that just covered everything around me. There was nothing else I could see, but at the same time I could see the room that I was standing in. It was just the weirdest thing. It's like seeing two different visions all at one time, with one eye. Is weird. So, but yeah, that right there was my experience with what happened to me when I was 15, and that, like I said, that's when it really got started. When I was growing up, it was like that, but not as prominent and not as it wasn't as strong as it was when I was growing up. But it got really crazy after that one point in my life. But anyway, that's enough about that. That's like I said, that's my experience. So stay tuned for another one, which will it'll be on my next post. Okay, now the story I'm going to read to you today is about a young man named Blair Grandstrom. Blair Grandstrom. Okay, he went missing on 06/03/1995 at 3 a.m. in Bellingham. I believe that's W-A. I'm not sure. I think that's Washington or Wyoming. I'm not sure. Let me find out real quick so I can get that right. I'm pretty sure it's gonna say that. Yeah, Washington. Okay, I was right. Washington. Okay, at Bellingham, Washington. Okay, now he was at the age of 20 years old when he disappeared. Okay, when when I first stumbled onto these cases, I couldn't believe how factually similar they were. If you have incidents that are close in calendar dates, they will draw attention. If you spread the cases by 10 to 15 years, people start to forget. Witnesses move and witnesses move and students graduate. The disappearances of Grandstrom and Clark were 15 years apart. Blair lived his life in Bellingham, Washington, a town just east of Seattle. His father was a Renton school district math teacher, and his mother was a staff assistant for the Bellevue school district. And see, that's kind of like how it was with me and my mom. She actually worked at my school. I went to PS 26 when I was a little kid back in Brooklyn, and she worked in the office. She was a typist, and an assistant to the principal. I didn't even know she actually was working there at the time. I just, because I was always in school, so by the time I left, she was already at home. So she did tell me that she was working there for a short period of time, but at the same time, I never knew because she never did tell me until I guess she wanted to. So, but anyway, let's see. I keep losing my place here. Okay. Megan Grandstrom was Blair's sister and a University of Washington graduate. Blair graduated from that's a weird name. Sammamish School or Sammamish High School, and made the division to attend The decision to attend Western Washington University and major in auto design. Blair enjoyed the campus and was doing well in his studies. On June 2nd, 1995, Blair went with friends to a party just off campus. See, here we go again. It always starts off with a party or going to a bar where there's going to be a lot of drinking. He's a high school kid, so they love to drink. So okay, there was alcohol at this party. See, of course, you already know that happens with all these cases. Okay, and it was reported that Blair had been drinking. At approximately 3 a.m., he told his friends that he was walking back to his room. And see, that's like what I said before. Every time they want to leave the party, they always end up walking back instead of letting someone drive them back, especially if they've been drinking. But high school kids, I guess, don't think about that, even back then. Oh well. Okay. This was the last time he was seen alive. Blair was reported missing, and a large search was started immediately. The neighborhoods of the campus and downtown area were thoroughly covered, and nothing of evidentiality getting tongue tied again. Evidentiality. Okay, calm down here. And nothing of evidentiality value was located. Hundreds of leaflets were distributed throughout the city, notifying the public of the disappearance. On June 7, 1995, Blair's body was recovered under highly unusual circumstances, as is described in the June 9th, 1995 edition of the Seattle Times. Police still don't know how Blair Grandstrom of Bellevue, whose body was found in a wastewater treatment lagoon in Bellingham Bay, Wednesday, died. The decomposed body of the 20-year-old Western Washington University student was found by a worker at the Georgia Pacific Western Lagoon during routine maintenance at about 10 a.m. Bellingham Police Lieutenant Rick Sussey said an autopsy was inconclusive. There were no signs of trauma or injuries. He said, and results of toxicology tests will take weeks. However, Whatcom County medical examiner Dr. Gary Goldfogel and Grandstrom's blood alcohol. Said Grandstrom's blood alcohol level was substantially above the legal limit of intoxication. Start keeping track of the number of times a body is found in or near a waste treatment facility. Yeah, I read that in one of the other stories a couple of months ago. Police stated that Blair would have had to climb over 2 fences to get to the water, or enter an area away from the bay near a breakwater. A breakwater. Imagine the scene: a bay that Blair was seen hundreds of times while a bay that Blair had seen hundreds of times while he was a student. A polluted bay filled with foam and dark water. Ugh, that's disgusting. Who would ever jump into that bay of muck? Yeah, obviously not anybody, but he was in there. But he was obviously placed there for whatever the reason. Okay, if I were writing a fictional novel about these incidents, nobody would believe it. The reality, these stories are all true. Yeah, they are all true, and they all have very mysterious circumstances that surround the case and surround the evidence that leads up to why this person died. But he said that he was going back to his room, but yet he didn't make it. Somewhere between point A and point B, he ends up in that lagoon. So how did that happen? Nobody knows. I don't know. All I can do is throw theories in there to kind of build a I guess a grid on what could have happened to him. But it all starts out the same way. It's a young college kid or a young high school student. They going to a party. There's gonna be drinking there, and then they start drinking. Then all of a sudden they say they're either gonna go back to their room, or they're not feeling well, or they're tired, and they're just gonna leave. Instead of them waiting for a friend to drive them back to the dorm or what have you, they walk. And obviously the friends don't think enough of you to actually say, well, hold up, I'll take you back, that way you won't have to walk so far. Sometimes they'll probably say something like, that's all right, I got it. No, I want to make sure you get home safe. That's a good friend. That's a friend that you should count on. But in all these cases, none of these friends do that. None of them, not even the college kids, because they're so absorbed into their own lives and their own, and their own means of partying and doing all this other kind of stuff. They don't think to make sure that their friend, their so-called friend, gets home safe. I myself would do that. Okay, but that's just me. But yeah, that happens a lot in these cases where they always seem to walk home instead of them waiting for someone to drive them home. And the same thing with Henry McCabe, with him too. The same thing with him. He went to a bar, he got a little, sauced, and he walked home. But he never made it. And see, I think that's what they be waiting for. Everything is so orchestrated. They sit there and they wait and they wait and they wait. I don't care how long it is. They got just that much patience to wait for someone, that way they can take them and do whatever they want to do with them. And then when they finish with them, what happens? They toss them back, and there's never any sign of death on the body. So obviously, these are spirit drinking beings or energy drinking beings. Okay, they suck the energy right out of your body, or they drink your soul or your spirit or whatever you want to call it. Somehow, some way, they do it in such a way that they don't leave any evidence behind. So that means they're doing it without even touching you. You could probably be standing right there, and they do something like in the video game Mortal Kombat, where Shang Tsung can actually suck your soul right out of your body from a distance, and he basically eats your soul or stores it in his body for his own personal gain or whatever the case may be. And I think that's what might be happening. And it's like I have said this before, how they take these small scenarios from things that we may have seen in a movie or may have seen on a TV show or a cartoon, and they actually make that scenario come to life. They are able to do this. That's the reason why people come up with so many analogies about these cases. Like the one analogy about the crane game, like that big old box that has all the stuffed animals in there, and you use that crane and it comes down on a item that you want to grab, and it will pick it up and move it somewhere and then drop it down at its present location, which is kind of like what happens with these people that are found in the water. It's like they're plucked from the street after coming from a bar. They are taken somewhere in a manner that doesn't leave any footprints or evidence to state that they were taken by any means. And then when they're done with them, they just drop the person right there in the water every time. So that's kind of like I said, that's an analogy. And I think that's what they do. They take people in such a way that it creates analogies for us to actually call forth, to describe how they're being taken. And I think that's how they're doing it. They are stealing these different scenarios that they may get from the stuff that we have seen on TV or in movies, or stuff that has been done by us in everyday life. And then they add these scenarios and ways of doing things to the killings of these victims. That's my take on it. That's how, you know, and like I said, the way they do things is that, you know, it's like they did it like this, or it's like they did it like that, and you come up with some analogy that's based off of a TV show or just an everyday life kind of thing that may have happened to you in your past. Like, because I can tell you right now, I have actually went to a carnival and I used that little crane game where I tried to pick up a stuffed animal, and I could never get it because the crane is like one of them hooks where it can just hook up underneath it. It's like that's part of the game. If you can't get it, then you lose out. You got to put more money in it. So yeah, but yeah, that's my take on that. Now, I actually wanted to read a little small story about this young boy who was disappeared in a camper. I was actually going to read it, but I got so absorbed into what I was talking about, you know, what happened to me and the story from the book, I totally forgot to read it. So I'm going to read this right quick. Okay. A moment's opportunity seems to play a big part in these disappearances. And that's what I was just saying, how they wait for the right moment to take somebody. And it's always within a second of them being taken. You know, nobody ever sees it coming. They don't even see it coming. It just happens just like that. Like, you could turn the corner and bam, you're gone. Like, there's one story about a woman who went over a little hill with a group that she was traveling with on the trail. And when these other people came over that hill and thought that she would have been right in front of them, she was gone. And they looked for her and she has never been found. That's how quick they do it. Once you're out of the sight of the people that you're with, that's when they take you. You know, that's what makes the whole thing so weird. They wait until you're out of sight from whoever you with and you're alone and by yourself. So it's weird. But anyway, okay. A young boy disappeared from his camper where he was sleeping with his sister and the family cat while their parents walked about outside. Within seconds of the parents walking behind a tree, they heard their son scream and ran back to the camper to find the door open and the boy missing. The girl and cat was still asleep. The child is still missing to this day. Now, what is out there? We don't know, honestly, because whoever is out there, they obviously don't want to be seen, and they're very good at making sure that it stays that way. You know, they're able to cloak themselves, make themselves invisible, to where you feel the fear of something being there, and it's an ominous feeling. You feel eyes on you, you feel something watching you, and it could be them watching you. But I think the reason why some people don't get taken is because you have a knowledge of what's going on out there, and you know that it's something otherworldly. You know it's not a human. You know it's something that can't be stopped. And I think the knowledge of that keeps them from taking you. As long as they know that you exist, but you can't prove it, they don't take you. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying that it does happen, but it seems to be the case, because these people that get snatched up don't have a wing and a prayer. They're just taken, and they have no choice in the matter. But the ones that know that something weird is going on out there, and they know that this being of some kind is taking these people, they're not going to take you. Having knowledge of their existence makes it hard for them to even want to grab you in that manner, I guess. I don't know. I'm hoping that's what it is, but that's just my personal opinion. But anyway, yeah, that's that little story right there. I mean, what is out there? We don't know. And the story about that little boy, the sister and the cat, they were both asleep. So that means they didn't hear him being taken by anything. Whoever took him came through the front door. But what kind of person, a human, could be able to do that and not make a sound, and for them not to hear him being taken? The only people that heard him were the parents. The young boy, the older sister and the cat didn't hear him. So obviously they somehow was able to cancel out the sound in that area, but you can hear the sound outside of that area, which is the weird part. How is it that the older sister and the cat didn't hear anything, but the parents did? So by the time they got to the camper, it was too late. He was gone, and he's never been found. So they have that ability to cancel out sound around them, to where they can do things in quiet without being noticed. They can sneak in, grab the child, and leave, you know, without even knowing that somebody was even there. But yet other people hear it, because obviously I think what it is, they're able to do that to the people that they want to do that to. They're able to cancel out the noise, or how can I put this? They have the ability to make sure that they have the ability to make sure that the people that they don't want to hear what's going on don't hear it. But yet they don't worry about them because they way out there. They ain't gonna get to them in time anyway. So they cause them to go deaf to where they can't hear what's going on, and they creep in. They get what they need. They do what they need to do and get out without them even knowing. You know, they do it at will. They can make people not hear what they're doing. That's what I was trying to say. They have the ability to make people not hear what they want to hear, and they have the ability to do that to anyone that they choose to do that to. You know, they can pick and choose who they don't want to hear. You know, whatever the case may be. But hopefully y'all getting what I'm talking about. You know, getting a little tongue tied here. I can get that a lot when I start talking a lot. But anyway, that's my take on that. And it's like I said, that was a pretty weird one right there. Even though it was short and sweet, but yet it was very detailed and very informative. How can the child and the cat not hear what was going on and hear him scream, but the parents did, and they were right there in the camper? So that makes it impossible for that to even happen, but it did. You know, and the parents were grilled because they thought that they had something to do with it, but when it all boiled down to it, they had nothing to do with it. They were just as upset as anybody else would have been. You know, and they were pretty much, I mean, they were lit up. They were grilled like crazy. Everybody looked at them like they were nuts because they couldn't fathom anyone other than the parents doing that, because there was no evidence to state that someone other than them did it. Not saying there was evidence to state that they did it, but they were the only suspects. You know, so weird, man. Sound being canceled when they trying to remove a child or a person from an area, you know, but yet everybody else hears it. The sound gets canceled around that one little area to where whoever's in that area with you can't hear what's going on, but the people outside the area can. That's the weirdest thing I ever heard in my life. But anyway, I gotta go, guys. This is gonna be my second video for not today, but I will post this video probably tomorrow or Monday. So I'm just trying to get these videos together so that I have something to post or whatever. You know, I had time to do it, so that's what I'm doing. So always imparting. Aloha, mahalo, and ahui ho. Peace out, guys. Be safe, be blessed, and have a great day. Love you guys so much.